Would you go on one of those glass bridges like they got over the Grand Canyon?
Absolutely not.
even like the glass elevators with the glass bottoms.
That
and
makes
that
me
kind of
nervous.
Stuff. It makes me nervous too, man. But I kind of like it at the same time. It's like a roller coaster.
You're like,
Yeah.
am I going to survive this
Yeah.
elevator ride?
Yeah.
Welcome to this special edition of the Fine Homebuilding Podcast, recorded live from the show floor of the JLC Live Residential Construction Show in lovely Providence, Rhode Island. I'm Senior Editor Patrick McComb. I'm joined by Digital Brand Manager Rob Wadzak,
Hi.
producer Jeff Rose, and Caleb Morris, Director of Marketing at Viewrail.
Good morning.
You guys can email us your questions at fhbpodcast@taunton.com. And you can find previous podcasts and check out the show notes at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. Caleb, thanks for being on.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your company does?
Yeah, so we are Viewrail, and we are manufacturers and direct sellers of floating stairs and modern railing systems.
Can you tell me what floating stairs are, please?
Yeah, so floating stairs are a very modern kind of stair, eliminating the riser oftentimes in the stairway. And so our most popular kind is a monostringer, so with a steel beam that goes under the center of treads of all different materials.
What are those materials? Stone?
Yeah, so mainly we're going to do them in wood, thick wood treads, 3.5, 4 inches thick, and all kinds of different wood species. But there's also stone, marble, epoxy options, that kind of a thing.
And what are the railing products?
Yeah, so our main railing products are going to be a rod railing, which is very similar to a cable railing. You've probably seen before. We have a cable railing product as well. Nice thing about the rod railing is it's more taut than the cable is, so less maintenance over time. And then we have a very popular glass railing line as well.
I've heard contractors complain that the cable rail systems, you often have to go back and tighten them up. Is that something that rod system solves?
Yeah, that's really why we innovated into the rod system. We were doing cable before, but we were getting a lot of those complaints that, man, we're having to come back to these every 4 to 6 months and retighten them, and that's something that the rods really solve.
Did the steel cable rails ever get stretched out that they don't stretch anymore?
Yeah, and that's the thing, because you're putting tension on something that is actually expanding, right? And so you get to a point where it can't really expand, or expands too much even. And so then you'll start to get sag and get to the point where you can't even retension it to enough where it's going to be taut.
And so the wire rail system, are they installed similarly, or do they come as manufactured panels?
Yeah, so they're installed piece by piece. So what we do is we manufacture the posts, and then we provide the infill. So all of the posts are pre-drilled, so that they're ready to accept those cables or rods. And then you crimp components onto the cables or rods and install them that way on site.
Okay. And are the rail systems surface mounted, or do they have posts that tie into the framing?
Yeah, all kinds of options. We do surface mounted, we do fascia mounted. For stairways, we even do like a tread fascia mount. So it's a side mount into the tread.
Gotcha. Yeah. And what are the advantages and disadvantages of those respective ways to do that? What's the easiest way you would tell a contractor would be to install one of your rail systems?
Sure. I mean, it's all going to be dependent on the project, right? And so if you're going up a stairway where you have a really narrow opening, you may want to use that tread side mount so that you can preserve as much of that walkway as possible. Now, in most cases, surf mount is going to be the easiest installation because it's a matter of sending those 4 screws right into whatever surface you have.
Are they bolted or screwed?
So they're lag screws in most cases, unless you don't have enough blocking, and then they can be bolted.
Cool.
So what's the typical diameter of one of those rods?
Yeah.
The visible rods that you see.
Yeah, they're quarter inch diameter. We also have a 1/2 inch diameter option for a little bit more industrial, more substantive look.
Are they stainless steel?
They are stainless steel. So they're actually out of 2205 stainless steel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
2205,
yeah.
It's 206 maybe?
Yeah, it's a special alloy. Most people in our industry are using 316L, right?
Right.
And it's a special alloy that we actually found from talking to some people in the oil rigging industry. That's what they actually send down deep into the oceans.
Cool.
And so we use that for extreme coastal applications because we were finding that there's cases where 316L just doesn't cut it.
Interesting.
And so we innovated into the 2205 system.
Are there any trade-offs with that product besides price?
With the 2205 rod product, no, there's really not. So it's actually a tubular system, and so there's a wall to it, so it cuts really easily. It's not like you're spending a lot of time. You're just using an angle grinder to cut those.
Cool.
And so there's not really big trade-offs.
What do you see what's the most popular thing you guys are selling now? What is getting the most traction?
Absolutely. Yeah, but far and away, it's our floating stair system. That has grown the most. We've only really been selling it for a little bit over the past year now, and it just has taken off. It's really filling a hole in the marketplace for a custom-built, pre-manufactured floating stairway system. Because previously, if anybody wanted a modern stairway like that, they were finding a local steel shop, and then they were also finding somebody else to do the treads, somebody else to do the railings, and we're providing that all-in-one solution.
So how does that work? A homeowner or a contractor calls you guys up with a project, and they send you plans, or do you make a site visit, or how?
Yeah. So they're going to send us plans. So most people are going to have architectural plans, or at least their contractor will draw something up. We'll ask for a couple of measurements, finish floor to finish floor, rise, run, that kind of a thing. But then we design it. We'll show it to them. We'll do a 3D mock-up and show them what it's going to look like. Go back and forth, make sure the measurements are right, and then we'll build it and send it out.
And who does the install then?
Yeah. So the contractors are doing the installs. We provide full video instructions for all of those installations. It's really pretty easy.
How does it mount at the top? That would be the key element, right?
Yeah, so at the top, you're going to use a triple 2x, or if you're using engineered lumber, it can be a double, and it's through-bolted through the top.
Through-bolted through the face horizontally or from above, below?
Yeah, so it's going to be going in into the header.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I've done a lot of the product and materials departments in the magazine over the years, and I've been looking for a long time for a system like this, and so that makes sense that you've only been doing it for about a year, because I've never been able to. Most modern houses, it's such a common detail that people want in a modern house is a floating stair like that, or just a steel stair or metal stair in general. And like you said, everything before was something that people had to have custom fabricated by somebody local. So it's really exciting to see a system like that. And so basically, it's just got a flange at both ends, and you guys fabricate it to their specifications, their length?
Yeah, that's right. And so it's going to have a plate both on the header and the footer. The footer, like I said, the header is going to be through-bolted, but most cases that footer will just be lagged down into sufficient blocking in the floor.
And are the treads installed on the stringer, or is that part of the installation?
That's part of the installation. So what we do...
Because otherwise it'd be stupidly heavy, right?
Exactly. And so in order to get this thing off the truck, you don't want all of that stuff put on together. And so actually something we just came out with is those flanges at the bottom and the top, those are actually mechanically fastened to the stringer. They're
bolted.
Yes, rather than being a pre-welded solution. What that does is it allows for a little bit of flexibility on site.
You can trim it.
Yeah, if you're a couple degrees off, you can trim it. But it also just removes a lot of weight to get that off the truck.
Because the plate is heavy too.
But what we do too with all of those brackets that are holding on the treads, those come separately, but it's all pre-drilled in terms of the stringer and the brackets. And so all you have to do is just run those bolts in.
So that the stringer is tapped for bolts?
That's correct. Yeah. So we use a flow drilling process actually.
What's that?
Yeah. So
do you know what flow drilling is?
Yes. Yeah.
It's hard to explain without a visual, but what it actually does is it uses extreme heat and it displaces the material of the wall thickness of the tube going down, and so it's actually creating walls going vertically.
That's so cool.
AVE had a really good video. That's how I only learned about that just from the past.
So it's threaded more than just the wall thickness.
Yeah,
yes.
and so then you actually just come back through with a tap, and then you can just turn them right in.
It gives a really cool look at the top too, because the flow drill has a flat surface on it, so it makes this nice little ring that almost looks like a washer, with like has radiused edges on it. It's kind of a neat detail.
I'm gonna have to look this up later.
I had no idea the technology existed before we got the machine in.
Yeah.
So,
and tell me, you need to have protection to keep things from falling of a tread. Your stairs don't have risers.
Yeah.
How do you guys get around that?
Yeah, and so most codes, obviously you guys know, codes vary so much from place to place and municipality to municipality. But general codes are that you can't fit a 4-inch ball through, so it's similar to railing codes.
Yes.
And so what we do is we'll use a 4-inch thick tread on a 7 3/4 rise, something like that. So you make sure that you don't have 4 inches.
small.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
exactly.
cool. Yeah, so the tread the tread thickness, other than being an aesthetic detail and a rigidity detail, is actually a code compliance detail.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, and so those treads are fully thick as well. So those aren't just a veneers over some sort of core. And so then you get a nice butcher block face on the outside edge of it.
And what is the most popular material that you're seeing in those stair systems?
Yeah, seeing a lot of white oak and walnuts. It's really interesting. 10 years ago, it was all about the exotics, but seeing a big move back to the domestics.
I'm glad of that.
Yeah, whether it's white oak or American walnut, seeing a lot of ash, red oak, those
That's
kinds of
good to
things.
be using ash.
Yeah.
So what was the first product that you guys brought to market? Because you said the stairs are only a year or so old, but you've been around for a while.
Yeah, so the cable railing products was actually the first thing. We were actually born out of an interior stair parts company that did wood stair parts, big box knolls, iron balusters, ornate wood handrail, that kind of a thing.
Which one?
Stair Supplies is the company name. And so we saw a hole in the market for some of these modern railing systems that people could install themselves and that people could buy directly.
Yes.
And pretty much everything was going through 2 or 3 step distribution, and we thought, okay, we have a web presence, we can sell this stuff directly. And so that was back in 2011. And here we are now.
What's the advantage of that for the purchaser, the builder, or the homeowner?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's lost in translation, right? So oftentimes we'll hear from our customers, man, it's just nice to be able to talk to the people that are manufacturing this stuff, because we're manufacturing everything as well, and so we can literally go out to the shop floor to check on somebody's order, rather than playing a little bit of a game of telephone.
Mm-hmm.
And so is the shipping or distribution part of your company too, or is it just normal freight shipping? Or?
Yeah, so we partnered with some freight carriers, and do ship nationwide then.
So yeah, I mean, we live in New England, so we're used to having a majority of our houses very traditional style, but it just seems like with the growth of social media and Pinterest and Instagram, and this younger generation just seems more in tune with modern design,
Modern is very cool right
which
now.
matches a lot of the stuff you guys produce. But it's exciting to see.
Can we talk a little bit about the glass railing systems?
Absolutely, yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting system, right? I mean, if you look historically, I mean, balustrade systems have been very ornately carved iron and wood and all kinds of materials.
It was meant to be a showpiece.
It was meant to be a showpiece. And really what we're seeing now is people don't want to see the railing. People want to see the treads are really the focal point of a lot of stairways now, and also people want to be able to see through the stairway system. So we'll see a lot of our stairways going into the middle of rooms where they're kind of a divider between spaces, but you can still see from the kitchen to living room, right?
That's pretty cool.
Glass really helps that and accentuates that.
Does that complicate the installation for the carpenter?
So it's a different installation process, right? And so we actually do our own glass manufacturing. We have a glass manufacturing plant, and so people will give us the specs, and we'll cut it to those specs. We have a really cool mounting solution though that allows I think it's 1.5 degrees of adjustability either way once you get on site. Just because, as we know, things aren't always plumb.
Yeah, I actually helped. I was working for a cabinet maker not too long ago, and I helped him install a glass wall system in his house. And he literally went online and bought some hardware and attached it, and then had a local glass person come and template it. Actually, no, I think he templated it himself using like MDF or something like that. And there were some sketchy moments there where we weren't sure everything was going to fit or be at the right plane. Or
How does your product solve that, Caleb?
Yeah, so we're making everything, right? So
there's some movement in the panels, apparently, right? In the mounting.
Yeah, so there's the movement in the mounting solution, right? And so it's this kind of tilt system that through a series of washers, it can kind of give pressure and let pressure, so that it comes either way.
And the panels themselves are all in a frame and manufactured, and then it needs to be assembled.
Yes, yeah, correct. And so we manufacture the panels. We do both tempered and tempered laminated solutions. We're seeing a lot of codes go toward the laminated solutions, just because if the panel breaks, it's all going to stay in one piece.
Yeah.
Where tempered is going to shatter into millions and billions of pieces.
And the thought is you're not going to cut on them, but you still could fall through the railing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where the laminate, it's still going to maintain one solid piece.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And that's like almost like a car windshield, basically.
Exactly.
And so there's a plastic layer between 2 layers of glass.
Correct.
So now, since you guys fabricate everything yourselves, I mean, like, what's the level of customization, like, ability with this stuff? I mean, is there sort of like typically a standard size or that you kind of piece a bunch of pieces together like Lego, or is like each one custom cut for per job?
Yeah, so each one is custom cut per job. And so if you tell us the space you need to fill, and we'll figure out how many panels at what length it's going to take.
Cool.
I love this stuff. What's your favorite product?
My favorite product is definitely the floating stair product.
And what kind of treads would you get?
I would get walnut treads.
Uh-huh.
Walnut is my favorite species. It gives a nice contrast of dark and light.
Yes.
And just the grain variation is beautiful. I'm not somebody that likes just a flat, hard maple tread. I love seeing that grain variation and seeing the naturalness of the wood product.
I'm with you. If you have wood, you want it to look like
absolutely
something
absolutely
natural.
Yeah, there's a reason we didn't use a synthetic material, right?
Yeah, I'm glad.
So
I was curious about the glass treads because I've seen that too.
Sure.
What's that
Yeah,
like?
glass treads are crazy. They're an absolute statement piece. They light up really well if you pair it with direct or
Are they
indirect
slippery?
lighting. It depends. So you can do different treatments to them. There's some exterior surface treatments you can do to give it a little bit of texture.
Yes.
So that you're not slipping on those.
And so, are we talking about a cast solid piece of glass, or?
Normally, glass treads are going to be built around some sort of core. I've seen all kinds of crazy things. I saw one sometime where they actually had a goldfish swimming inside of the glass tread, right? And that's not everybody's cup of tea. Think about that. It's going to be around some sort of core piece generally.
How do you feed the goldfish?
I was going to say. And that bubbler is going to be kind of distracting when you're going up the steps.
It's kind of trippy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
There's a library in Pittsburgh that has a section of it with glass floors that were meant to illuminate the space, and I still get sketched out walking on those.
So would you go on one of those glass bridges like they got over the Grand Canyon?
Absolutely not.
Because even like the glass elevators with the glass bottoms.
That
and
makes
that
me
kind of
nervous.
Stuff, it makes me nervous too, man. But I kind of like it at the same time. It's like a roller coaster.
You're like,
yeah,
am I going to survive this elevator ride?
Yeah.
Speaking of glass, the other day I was in the basement of some local commercial building in my town. The buildings were probably all built in like the early 1900s, and they had concrete as their front stoop now, but we were underneath where the front walkway was, and we looked up, and there was a cast iron stair tread with all these little medallions of glass in it. There was,
cool.
Nobody never sees it anymore unless you go to like get supplies out of the basement. But that's a neat detail. I'd like to see that in like a stair like that.
Yeah, we love to see new things like that.
What's like the wackiest thing you guys have done?
Oh goodness, what's the wackiest thing we've done?
Excepting the goldfish stair tread.
Yeah, we did a couple of years ago. We did a massive railing project, St. Kitts Island down in the Caribbean, which is really cool. It was if you imagine the house on the hill. I mean, that's exactly what this was. Island of St. Kitts is like 11 miles long, and so you get on top. It's 3 balconies that we did railing all the way around, and you have a 360-degree view of the island.
Wow.
It was I got to go and help on the installation of that, and that was quite an experience.
Who was the client?
He was a guy. He was originally from St. Kitts, moved to Chicago, opened an auto dealership, did really well, and decided he wanted to move back home and build a beautiful house there.
Oh, that's cool. That's the British Virgin Islands, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You all need a vacation spot. I think that would be a one to go to.
Yeah.
Have you been to the JLC live show before?
I have not. This is my first time.
What do you think?
Actually. Yeah, it's really cool. It's packed. Holy cow.
There's a ton of people here.
Yeah, I was just at IBS back in February, and that's a packed show too, but it's so big, right? And but in terms of just density per square footage, I think this rivals IBS in terms of how many people are here based on the square footage they have.
Have you had a chance to walk the show floor yet?
Yeah, I have. Just a little bit since I think it's been open for an hour now, so I've been wandering around a little bit.
What should Rob and I check out later?
Yeah, so I love two kinds of products. I like things that make things really simple, and I like things that open up spaces. And I love to see Anderson and Marvin Windows are showing off their big, oversized windows and doors that are all glass interiors that are really made to let's open up this space. Let's bring the outdoors into the indoors.
So are they just big normal windows, or are these folding patio door systems?
There's both.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's something I think about. Like, we've built, because we have air-conditioned homes for the most part now. You know, a couple of generations ago, people were used to having to deal with the weather, deal with their local climate. And so so many people have gotten away from building houses that are connected to the outdoors. So it's nice to see that people are thinking of that more with the window systems.
Where do you live?
I live in northern Indiana.
So it's cold there.
It's cold there. We're getting into spring. I think we're done with snow. But happy to see spring's coming.
We were talking to a guy who walked by this morning who builds in the White Mountains of New Hampshire.
Wow.
And they still have 6 feet of snow on the ground.
Oh, goodness.
And he said his happy day, like his ideal day, is sunny and clear and 5 degrees.
Oh, no. Oh, no. More power to him, man.
Yeah.
He was so into it. It was great to talk to Keith. It was fun.
Cool.
It's like we meet a lot of cool people who are really into what they do here, and it is very validating.
That is the fun thing about places like this, is just being around other building nerds, right?
Yeah.
And I think my friends think I'm kind of crazy sometimes, but it's fun to really geek out over this stuff with people.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you could pick any one of these people and have a good conversation with almost.
Absolutely.
Because it's interesting.
Absolutely.
Everyone has different challenges depending on where you're building and what you're building and who you're building for. It's fascinating to talk to other people about their craft.
Yeah, and in the few conversations I had, because last night we had a Keep Craft Alive meetup, partnered with JLC Live at one of the local breweries.
Union Station
Brewery, and which is right around the corner here. And
very good, by the way.
I was amazed at how many different stories of like where people were and how they came into the building trades. I mean, we met, this one kid who works with Mike Gerton Addison, who he wasn't enjoying school until he got a taste of some of the VOTEC classes that were available to him, and it just clicked.
Sure.
He just totally realized that was his path, and that's what the scholarship that Keep Craft Alive and Fine Homebuilding partner with Skills USA is all about. Is reaching out to those people and showing them there's options, there's other options, and there's people to help you out. And then now he's working with Mike Gerton, which is like one of the best teachers in the business.
Best teacher you could have.
But then
how'd you end up in this business, Caleb?
Yeah, so it's actually a family business for me. So my father and mother were the founders. Back in 2001, they founded Stair Supplies, which is the interior stair parts business, and then Viewrail in 2011. Never thought I wanted to come back to the family business.
Did you try something else?
Yeah, I tried a couple of other things.
What'd you try?
So I worked for Habitat for Humanity for a little bit.
I did that too.
Did you really?
Yes,
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, great experience. I worked for a local one up in northern Indiana.
As a construction supervisor?
No, I actually did development and grants work.
Okay.
So more on the fundraising end of things. Had a great experience there, and decided it was wanted to move back home. We were having a baby, and wanted to be back closer to family.
Sure.
And went back to the business again. Didn't think that's necessarily what my path was, but got back into it. I've been back for 2.5 years now, and I love it.
That's great.
It's a great experience.
I bet your parents are psyched too.
Yeah, it's fun to see everybody, and my younger brother is a part of the business too. So.
How do you all get along?
We get along great. It makes family dinners interesting because we just talk about work. And
do you ever make rules that you don't talk about work?
Oh no, I'm not sure what else we would talk about. No, that's not true. But we just all love what we do, and having that common experience is fun.
That's really cool.
So, what was your dad involved in a construction business before he started it?
No, he wasn't actually. And so he actually kind of took a very roundabout path to where he's at now. He actually came out of the ministry, and he once he had my brother and I, he's like, okay, I need to start making a little bit more money, right? And so he started taking on some odd jobs for people, just making different things for stairways, and decided, hey, I can turn this into a business.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
That's a very capital-intensive business to start.
Yeah, it is. And so he actually started just by farming things out to local Amish craftsmen. We have a lot of Amish people in our neck of the woods.
Do they have duplicating lathes and stuff like that?
Yes, actually.
Wow.
And so they'll run things on generators, and that's how we started. Then we realized, okay, we can make a lot more money on this stuff if we bring this stuff in house and get the capital, and it's taken off from there.
And where do you make the things?
Yeah, in northern Indiana. And so we have close to 150,000 square feet of manufacturing space now. Actually just opened up a 40,000 square foot addition to our building. And 95% of the things that we sell are manufactured there in Goshen, Indiana.
Really cool.
Awesome.
And how many people are working there?
Let's see, we have 140 people now total.
Wow, that's a big business.
Yeah, it is. It's grown substantially in the last about 5 or 6 years.
What do you think that's? What do you attribute that to?
It's really the growth of this Viewrail product line mainly, and so that's just been extra business for us because we still have that traditional line of business in the stair supplies, but there's just been a hunger from the market for this Viewrail modern product line.
And something that's manufactured instead of custom fabrication, which is a challenge.
People love that. I mean, it simplifies things so much. You can install a floating stairway in one day, railing, treads, and all, where that was previously going to be a 3-4 week process.
With 3 or 4 different, probably, fabricators, right?
Absolutely.
And not only that, it's like if you bring in a fabricator for something for a custom staircase, it's like they have to reinvent the wheel. It's like chances are some local guy may not have done anything quite like that before, and there's a lot of figuring out.
Yeah, and well, you guys know this, but with custom-built stairways, you can't have exposed fasteners on a custom-built stairway, right? Like a traditionally framed stairway. And we got into the railing market too because we saw, man, there's a lot of just bulky, non-hidden fasteners on these railing systems, and they looked relatively
ugly.
Yeah, they looked okay exterior, but like, man, no one would want to put this thing in their house. And so that's really what we wanted to do is take our interior stair parts line of thinking and apply it to that modern railing product.
Yeah, make it clean.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on, Caleb.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
That's all the time we have for now, but I want to thank you all for listening, and thanks to Caleb and Rob for joining me, and thanks to Jeff for his expertise on the board. And we'll be back in a little bit with another installment from the JLC Live construction show in lovely Providence, Rhode Island.